Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We are absolutely thrilled to celebrate these incredible women in the e-commerce industry with all of you. This is our first ever global event and we couldn't be happier to be celebrating with you. So before we get started, I do want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Recharge, Capgemini, Klarna, and AdQuadrant, whose sponsorship funds were all generously donated directly to Girls Inc. on behalf of this event. And a few housekeeping notes. If you want to share any content on social from this event, and we absolutely do encourage you all to do so, please use the hashtag Women in Ecom with 2 M's and tag us at Women in Ecom and at Yotpo. But don't just stop there. Beyond this event, we really encourage you to go to womeninecom.com and subscribe to our newsletter. Hear more about these amazing women throughout the year, our program, content, events, and much more. And even more exciting, we have Fun Tech today. That means that you can connect with us here and now during this event. We're using a chat tool that lets you ask questions, share your opinion, and connect with other viewers. And we are so fortunate to have some of our honorees here with us today who are watching and can answer your questions. Now, a bit about our program before we get into the 2021 honorees, who are clearly the main event and what you came here for. Amazing Women in E-commerce started out in 2018. It was an idea basically that was pitched by one of our Yotpo moderators who's here today, Talia Shani, the head of marketing UK. And basically the idea was to create a community that would celebrate and support the women that are shaping e-commerce. So every year we ask people in the industry to nominate amazing women that they know and help us shine a light on the many, many women killing it in e-commerce. So far, and since then, the program has grown substantially. As of this month, we have now honored 79 women, received thousands of nominations, this year alone, over 2,100 nominees, a new record. And we've raised almost $44,000 for Girls Inc. because it's not just about shining a light on the women who are shaping our industry, it's also about investing and building the next generation. So now, in our 4th year, we're honoring 30 women from a wide range of disciplines in the business. Please join me in congratulating the honorees of 2021. I absolutely wish we were IRL so we could give them the proper round of applause that they deserve. But take a moment, take them in, check out these fierce ladies from all across the industry. They're truly wonderful. Please go to womeninecom.com and read their profiles. We're so excited to hear from some of these women and throughout the year as well, because they have so much expertise, advice, and insight to share with the amazing women in e-commerce community. So read through their awesome Q&As and learn more. We've had the luxury to get to know these women during the nomination process. And while it's clear that they all hold unique and diverse positions in our industry, we also learned that there are similarities that unite them too, because they're all passionate about their brands. And they're leaders who value a good team because they know that they're stronger when they have good teammates to support them. They also like to nerd out about the small things at work. I am definitely a big fan of this Control F in Slack revelation, and geek out over things in life too. Strongly support the One Division here. But truly, we're just so thankful to have them. It's the highlight of our day when we get to work and learn from them. Strongly encourage you again to get inspired and read their Q&As on the website. But now, I'm very excited to share that we have an extremely close and special relationship with Girls Inc., really the backbone of this initiative. And we have Delita Marsland with us to talk a bit more about this incredible organization. Take it away, Delita.
Thank you so much, Ruthie, and thank you to Yotpo. Hello, amazing women. My name is Delita Marsland, and I'm the Chief Development Officer at the National Office of Girls Inc. On behalf of our CEO, Dr. Stephanie Ho, and the Girls Inc. Network, I want to thank the amazing women in e-commerce community for your support and commitment over the past 3 years to help create a new generation of leaders. Through the Amazing Women in E-commerce program, you have raised $32,885 for Girls Inc., an additional $10,870 was donated on behalf of the 2021 Amazing Women in E-Commerce Honorees. Congratulations to them for inspiring this donation and for being leaders and trailblazers for women to follow. Together, we are changing the lives of girls across the country. Literally, our network of affiliates serves over 100,000 girls ages 5 to 18 at more than 1,500 sites in 350 cities across the United States and Canada. Our incredible partners include brands across industries, including e-commerce. Through this support, Girls Inc. inspires all girls to be strong, smart, and bold through direct service and advocacy. We work with schools and in communities to provide the mentoring relationships, safe spaces, and evidence-based programming that are proven to help girls succeed. We take a comprehensive approach to whole girl development that equips girls to navigate gender, economic, and social barriers and grow up healthy, educated, and independent. Girls learn to value their whole selves, discover and develop their inherent strengths, and receive the support they need to navigate the challenges they face. Girls Inc. also works to advance legislation and policies that increase opportunities for all girls. Please continue to support our important work. You may visit the chat room or the link, or you may get involved at a local level by visiting our website and seeing a full list of affiliates. Congratulations again to the 2021 honorees, and thank you for supporting Girls Inc.
Thank you so much for sharing that important message, Dalita. We are so thankful to have you with us here today. And now, moving on to today's program, we have a great lineup of speakers for you all. We're kicking off the event with a fireside chat with founders. We've got Frances Tang, founder of Awkward Essentials, and Dee Charlemagne, co-founder of Avec Drinks. That's going to be followed up by an incredible panel discussion about creating a stellar online store experience with Shireen Perrier of Bouclem, Laura Burbage of Waitrose and Partners, and Raji Bahal of Klarna. And then we'll end the event with a deep dive into growth strategies. We'll have Carolyn Zamora of Recoup, Haley Branham from Ad Quadrant, and Yoonji Nam from Magic Spoon. And of course, none of this would be possible without Yotpo. So a huge thank you for supporting this initiative from the beginning and helping us put a well-deserved spotlight on the impressive women that we have the privilege of working with in our day-to-day. Yotpo is all about making e-commerce marketing smarter for brands and captivating shoppers. Go to yotpo.com to learn more. And without further ado, Chris, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Ruthie. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our annual celebration of amazing women everywhere, and particularly the visionaries who are moving the industry forward, AKA our honorees. My name is Christina Donoso, Senior Director of Brand Marketing at Yotpo and Executive Director of Amazing Women in E-Commerce. We're kicking off today's sessions with a fireside chat with two women who aren't just pushing boundaries, they're outright breaking them. But heads up to our audience, we would like to have a candid conversation and give our founders the opportunity to speak freely. So please observe all guidelines and keep it respectful in the chats. So with that, a huge welcome to our founders, Dee and Frances. Dee, let's start with you. Please introduce yourself. What is your company and what are your products?
Yeah, so my name is Dee Charlemagne. Demetrius is the long name if you ever see that. I am co-founder of Avec Drinks, which is premium, better for you mixers. So think instead of mixing like a vodka soda to try and be healthy or settling for like a very sugary cocktail to try and get taste, we basically make mixers that are all natural, made with real juice, and are made, blended to be mixed with spirit. So you could have a vodka Avec yuzu lime instead of that vodka soda that's tasteless, or you could have a vodka Avec jalapeno and blood orange instead of that margarita, which is full of sugar. We have 5 different flavors and we launched in June of 2020. So are relatively new, but excited to be in the market.
Amazing. And I, by the way, just put in my order. It
Thank
is
you.
arriving really, really soon. So I'm super psyched to try it. And Frances, tell us all about it. What's your company?
Hi, everyone. I'm Frances. I'm the founder of Awkward Essentials. We're a hygiene company just creating solutions for super awkward problems like after sex cleanup. So I am the inventor of the Drip Stick. It is an after sex cleanup sponge for women to help them remove all the excess fluids after sex. It was inspired by a personal problem and a baking spatula.
Okay, we can't stop there. Please tell us more about it.
So a dripstick is a medical grade sponge that absorbs everything after you're done having sex. After sex cleanup was just something I did not like dealing with. I didn't like rolling off the bed and running to the bathroom and sitting over the toilet. And as an avid baker, I would use a rubber spatula for cake batter in the bowl all the time. And every time I scraped the last of the cake batter out of a bowl, cake batter is thick, I would think, oh, wouldn't it be great if there was a spatula for my vagina? So that translated into this super soft sponge that removes everything super quickly. So there's no more like dripping and leaking and smell and that feeling when you like think you have your period and you're like in the middle of a meeting, but it's like not your period, it's from last night. So that is our first flagship product, and we're just super excited to continue creating other products for awkward problems that nobody wants to talk about, but also kind of really want to talk about at the same time.
You know, it's definitely an idea whose time has come, and there are certainly a lot of awkward things that happen in a hygiene perspective. So really looking forward to your company and what's coming down the line. So Dee, like, what's your story and what led you to start Avec?
Yeah, so my story is that the idea for Avec came in business school. I met my co-founder Alex at business school, and he was a food and beverage consultant working in the UK, and sort of recognized that the rest of food and beverage had like moved on to like health and taste. Like when we do presentations, we do this fun game where it's like, if you've had a sweet green salad, lower finger. If you've had Halo Top, lower finger. And if you've had something like Oatly, lower finger. Like all of these categories has changed where you don't really need to compromise between health and taste. And then when you get to the bar, there's this moment where you're like, oh, I guess I'll just have a vodka soda if I'm trying to be healthy. Or there's some judgment around even drinking in the first place. Like there's a lot of these brands that are coming out now that are like anti-drinking. And like, we just believe in a world of people drinking together and like drinking a bit better. So my background is, my family's West Indian. So Jamaican, St. Lucian. And what that means is that everything is a celebration. So like if you lost a tooth in my family, there was like rum punch and a party. If there's a wedding, there's rum punch and a party. So like always, drinking culture has sort of been core. Like even since I was a kid, I saw adults drinking together, having honest conversations. And so really believing in the power of drinks to bring people together was like the reason I got excited about Avec, not just an idea of like this better for you mixer. Everything is under 4 grams of sugar, under 20 calories. So there's like this health aspect. But what about the aspect of drinking where you can bring just different kinds of people together? The name literally means with in French. So the whole idea is that we're changing what you mix with your spirit, not just in terms of product, but also who you're mixing with. Just coming from a different background. Like I grew up in the Bronx, New York originally, got to go to Harvard, Exeter, Columbia, what I call fancy schools. And never really felt like there were brands that spoke to, both of those worlds. So I got into advertising and media before starting Avec. I had a career there and really wanted to build brands that spoke to like all different kinds of cultures and were part of cultures, and just got tired of advising brands on like, okay, this is how you speak to different kinds of communities, or here's how you don't think about even putting people into the box. Like you're a Black person in this thing or a woman in this segment. Like, it's like, let's not segment people. I actually check a lot of these different boxes, and I just want to be talked to in a way that's like fun and interesting and aligns with my values. So Avec, obviously is a mixer product, like a physical liquid, but to me, it stands for a lot more in terms of just like drinking culture and getting people to mix and mingle in a different way.
Yeah, well, in a way, your product is a COVID baby, right? And at the end of the day, like the getting together and the community and the celebration part was really like hampered in the past year. And so, like, what was the reception for it, given that you launched after the pandemic?
Yeah, it wasn't really a COVID baby. It was planned. We just happened to launch in COVID. The original plan was to be more like a Red Bull style, right? Like going out to parties, being at events, like really finding ways to like mix. But when COVID happened, we kind of had to decide in March, because of all the lead times and ordering, et cetera, if we needed if we were going to launch in June and COVID was just kicking off, it was like exactly this time last year, our spring break was canceled. We were like, oh God, are we going to be able to do this? And, you know, as we looked at like just what was going to happen in our heads, it was like people were doing virtual happy hours already. Like people were finding a way to socialize still. And so we predicted, you know, as has happened, you know, at home drinking would go up, people wanting to connect still, you know, even if it's digital. AVEC is being a, you know, perfect occasion for that. Like we've been part of conferences where everyone's like, feels like they're in the same room because they're literally having the same drink, if that makes sense. It's not like, oh, we did a cocktail making class and like everyone's drink tastes different. Like it's like we literally are coming together over this drink. So that's been really fun. But yeah, I'm excited for summer to open because the whole point of AVEC, as we said, is to get people drinking together and having a good time. So excited about things opening up, hopefully.
It's amazing. And Francis, so I mean, people stay in more. So are you seeing an increased demand over the past year?
Yeah, I mean, it's been good. People don't really have anything to do except each other. So it's been really great with COVID.
They're drinking some AVEC and having a great time afterwards. And I'm super curious, of course, you told me that people ask you this all the time. So who am I to buck the trend? What does your dad think about your company?
So people ask me that all the time. I don't know if it's semi-racist or semi-sexist or both at the same time, but regardless, my dad is also a founder and entrepreneur. And so he's like one of my biggest supporters. It's crazy, totally different industry, but just having a supportive parent with that knowledge and background and giving me that push. Because I think if it weren't for him, I'd still be like planning, right? Because you can plan forever, but unless someone kind of gives you that push or like keeps it really real and is like, hey, where you need to make the thing, then you're not going to make the thing. And so I've been grateful to have him as a dad and mentor and just kind of the person that gives me the truth, whether I like it or not.
And Dee, you must have that person who gives you the truth, whether you like it or not, and your partner, Alex. What's your division of labor at AVEC?
Yeah, so we divide and conquer for sure, but we really believe in this like better together sort of mission. But I deal with more of the marketing and online, like D2C store. He deals more with sales and product. But obviously those two things come together. Like product can't really be divorced from brand. We're the only 2 employees right now until we fundraise. So we do everything pretty much together, but that's how we sort of divide and conquer. His taste buds are like, I don't know, I want to like get them scientifically checked out at some point because I feel like they're just out of control accurate. So he deals with the product. I deal with the more like, okay, I just want to get people around the table drinking. Like my friends are like, you got the job you've always wanted, which is getting everyone together, throwing a party and getting them to drink basically. So that's how we sort of divide and conquer.
And who would be your first hire?
Our first hire will be an ops person. We use fresh ingredients. So like juices expiring, you know, we use as natural things as we can. So that comes with a lot of complication and costs. So finding as we scale, you know, just operational excellence. Beverage also online wasn't really a thing before COVID, right? Like D2C beverage besides House, who sort of led the way, wasn't really a thing. So really working with like, you know, what does our shipping look like? How do we make sure that cans, like right now in the middle of winter, the cans explode in the middle of the country because they're carbonated and it's freezing cold. So even figuring things like that out, like, oh, FedEx's trucks are warmer than UPS's trucks. And if you ship on a Monday, they don't sit in the truck overnight on the weekend. Like very intricate things that, you know, an ops person will take care of. And for us, it's really important that every customer has a good experience. So things like, you know, being on pre-order sounds really sexy. Like we sold out and we're on pre-order, but it's like, you want to fulfill that order as quickly as possible. You know, drinking spontaneous, people don't want to be waiting a month for it. So ops will definitely be our first hire.
Yeah, I was excited to see that my order shipped right away. So you're doing a good job so far.
We're back on it now.
Get the right
I don't know what Francis thinks, but customer service, it's like you're emailing me or Alex, and people, I think the Amazonism, whatever of the world, like people just think you're emailing a bot. It's like, the customer service number is a Google Voice number that calls my cell phone. So it's like, there's not a complicated thing, and customers just really don't expect it. You're like, yeah, I'm Dee, I'm the founder. Like literally I was on the phone and someone's like, where's my package? I'm like, I'm literally not at a computer.
What people love though. They love
I'm not at a computer, but I'm at the post office right now, I swear. So it's just it's an interesting dilemma because like our website, you know, everyone's website looks so professionally done, and then the people behind it, it's like, it is professional, but we don't have like a customer service line that you're calling.
Frances, are people reaching you when they're asking for customer service?
Yes, our chat bot, emails, it's always me, and people are like, where is it? And I'm like, I don't work for the USPS. I'm so sorry. Like, I only have as much information as the tracking tells us. And so, but it's been a really great way to have transparency into what's important to our customers, what they care about, what we can improve, and how we can do better. So I think it's a great job to have. I love customer service, but it can also be very painful at the same time.
Like, so how many people are on your team, Frances? And like, what was your strategy for building your team?
So we have a really small team, but we had help with recruiting from our investors who are pretty involved in what we do, which is really nice. They're great partners. And the strategy for us is more personality fit. They have to understand the product and the brand, because our brand has a very strong personality. I'd say humor is really important, because we leverage humor in pretty much everything we do, and then try to couple that with a really great product and brand experience. And then the last interview we typically do is like an ice cream date, because I believe that you should like be friends. You should be able to like have a normal friend conversation with your early team, because it's so important. You're going to be spending so much time with them that if you don't get along as like friends or regular people, it'll be really hard to get along as coworkers.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. And you guys mention your websites, by the way. Both of your sites are really, really amazing. They look super high class, high brand. Like, I really want to throw money at you because of it. So can you tell me
like make it rain, make it rain.
Yeah, totally. It's a premium brand. So like Dee, like how did you approach, your website and the experience that you wanted to create for customers?
Yeah, like I said, we weren't initially expecting to be an online, only brand. We were always going to have e-commerce, but we didn't see it as the main point of difference. And so once we realized, okay, COVID's happening, people are going to be indoors, it was very much like, how can we create an experience on the internet that's different than everything else, right? Like our site's built on Shopify, so it's not like we're like totally reinventing the wheel, but it's like, how do you land somewhere and you feel like you're in a different world? Our brand is very much inspired by this like 1920s update. So it's like, imagine all the like really cool posters and stuff from the 1920s, but with a modern day like twist, right? Like instead of like woman with blonde hair, like smoking a cigarette, it's like, what if there's just women in combat boots smoking cigarettes still, like some sort of update. And so we really wanted to build our website with a team that had a bit more experience. Our team that built it doesn't just do websites, like they are architects who like doing in real life events. And so like you can see sort of like that personal human touch, like as if you were in real life having a sort of like digital experience, like walking into those art galleries that have cool lights and all that stuff. So we really thought about it, not just as like okay, how do we just have a conversion page, which a lot of people will tell us to do today still, like just do a shop now button. And it's like, we want this the only experience they have with the brand before they buy, right? For the most part, maybe you see us on Instagram, maybe you've, come to a talk like this, but like, this is a world that we want them to feel. So to me, the trade-off between having just like a conversion page and a website was clear. Like, it's like, we're a new brand. We want people to feel something. And so we went with a little bit of a different approach than what is, I guess, like textbook recommended for e-commerce.
Yeah. Did you work with an agency to do it?
No, we've never worked with an agency so far. We're actually kicking off with an agency today for the first time ever. But I'd worked in advertising and agencies for many years. And so understood that as a small brand, when you go to a big agency or any agency with a small budget, you're going to get the small talent. So I'd rather pay, freelancers that I love. So a lot of our brand is built on freelance relationships.
How about you, Frances? What kind of experience did you want people to have on your site?
So we're built on Shopify as well. And for us, because the product is a new product, it's an invention, we really needed to have education be at the forefront, but education that was friendly and accessible. So the first website, I built it myself on Shopify. I was just trying to prove out a concept, and people didn't understand how the product worked. And so I could not afford a plastic anatomical vagina from Amazon. So I used a Twinkie and the product to demonstrate how to remove the cream from a Twinkie, or, in this case, get everything out after sex. and it went really, really well. So our website now still has an updated Twinkie trope that describes how the product works in a way that isn't so like medical, just because for us, our brand is really about humor and being approachable and being able to like talk about these awkward things that happen to us without it just having a normal conversation. Really, that's our goal, right? To just normalize all the things that happen to us because they happen.
And how are people like, I mean, they're not like searching or Googling after sex cleanup. So how are people discovering your brand?
We do paid ads. If it weren't for COVID, we'd be doing a lot of experiential. We have this like massive truck that's covered in eggplants that we really want to just drive around and like give out product, but we can't, at least yet. We do social. We kind of do all the major marketing channels that are out there, just like email, organic, paid, etc. But our ultimate goal is to really keep it weird and do more experiential stuff once we can.
That's amazing. And
Let's combine. I want to keep it weird.
Yeah.
It's not that weird though. I feel like, everything is sort of celebratory and then clean. And what are your top traffic drivers right now, Frances?
So right now it is paid digital. That is our top traffic driver. And we get these random virality moments because someone will like see our website and then screenshot it and post it on Twitter or like a Facebook group. So those have been really incredible. And TikTok has been working really well for us, oddly enough. My side part, I'm old and not a TikTok person, but TikTok has been a great channel.
How about you, Dee? Like, are you on TikTok?
We just started TikTok, and also surprisingly, it's going well. I mean, we started last week, literally. But our main drivers have been PR. Like, we just have gotten really good mentions. We were in New York Times when we launched. We were in Food and Wine as a pick, Gear Patrol, but a lot of press coverage, because I think similar to Frances, it's not as inventive of a product, but I think the mixer category, there's still some education around what a mixer is, what a highball drink is, how you do it. And so a lot of these channels like PR, TikTok, etc., is really fast storytelling snippets. Like the Twinkie thing is genius because it's a whole storytelling way and it's super quick, right? A lot of people see TikTok as this fun dance thing, but people really go in there to learn things super quickly, right?
Yeah. And Frances, are you doing fun dance things on TikTok?
We're not doing fun dance things yet. I feel like it takes a really long time to learn those dances and then to execute them in front of a camera.
Yeah, well, it's probably also if you're lucky enough to have somebody on the team who actually is just organically doing that stuff, you can hire them to do it. Before we close, is there anything that you guys want to tell our audience that's coming up for you that they should absolutely keep an eye out for? Frances, anything?
I think, can Dee go first?
Yeah, this month we're doing a Woman in Spirits event, which I'm really excited about. So partnering with 21 Seeds Tequila, Uncle Nearest Whiskey, HH Bespoke Spirits, and Heron and Vodka to do just a tell-it-all of women who are doing cool stuff in beverage. It'll all be on our Instagram at Avec Drinks everywhere. So check that out.
Everybody sign up. All right, Frances.
So we have a lot going on, which is why it was hard for me to decide. We have a lot going on in this upcoming month, but for the most part, we're really excited to improve the product and continue with product innovation and just continue to push different, interesting, creative, weird campaigns out there. So would love for everyone to follow us at awkwardessentials.com or at awkwardessentials on Instagram.
Amazing. Well, thank you to both of you for being so wonderful, for sharing your stories, your experiences with us, and for keeping it real. Everyone, please make sure to read their honoree profiles on womeninecom.com. Go buy their stuff at awkwardessentials.com, avecdrinks.com, and certainly quote and share on social. So thanks everybody for joining.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Amazing Women in E-commerce panel, Creating a Stellar Online Store Experience. I'm Talia Shani, Director of Marketing at Yotpo, and I am joined by three truly amazing women. I'm going to introduce them really quickly before we just let them introduce themselves. So we have Raji Bihal from Klarna. Shireen Perrier from Bouclem, and Laura Burbich from Waitrose and Partners. I'm going to jump right in. Can you guys each give a quick introduction of yourselves? Let's start with Raji, who I know your company's had a pretty amazing announcement recently.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here today. My name is Raji Bihal, and I lead one of the merchant success teams in New York for Klarna. So for those of you who don't know Klarna, we are a leading global payments provider and shopping service that really gives customers the flexibility to buy what they love now and pay later. We were founded in Sweden in 2005. We're a fully licensed bank in Europe, operating in 17 markets, with US being our fastest growing market. And truly, we're just on a mission to make the modern shopping and payment experience as smooth as possible and eliminate unnecessary friction and complexity by offering services that help people pay seamlessly and manage their finances and keep track of their purchases.
Cool. Laura, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Laura Burbage, and I'm the Director of Online at Waitrose and Partners. So for those of you who don't live in the UK, you've probably not heard of Waitrose and Partners, but so we are a supermarket. So we're part of the John Lewis Group, and we have over 300 stores in the UK and a fast-growing online business. So we sell, think anything high quality, great tasting food. If you live in the UK, you probably shopped at Waitrose at one point in your life.
Laura, it is so, for the people who are not from the UK in the audience, it is such an understatement to call Waitrose a supermarket. I mean, it is truly just one of my favorite places.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Again, what would you say the US equivalent is?
Yeah, I was trying to think about this actually, because I was trying to describe it recently to one of my colleagues. I think you might say a Whole Foods. Shireen, maybe you also have kind of both sides and can say there. It's like a fancy, wonderful food palace is what I would say.
Like Trader Joe's as well. Maybe a mix between Trader Joe's and Whole Foods a little bit.
Yeah.
Sounds lovely.
And on that note, Shireen, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Shireen. I am now the head of e-com and digital marketing at Bouclem, which is a curly hair care company, all plant-based and eco-friendly, which is really cool. I'm actually only starting this week. I was previously head of e-com at Rolly, which is a music technology company, and I've been working in e-commerce now for the last 8 years.
And Shireen, actually, perfect place to start with our next question. Can you talk a little bit about your path to e-commerce, and also please share your amazing women in e-commerce story with how you've met kind of the Bouclem team?
Yeah, sure. So, okay, I'll try to keep it short and sweet because I think I might have mentioned it on the last Amazing Women in E-commerce panel I was on last summer. But essentially, long story short, I used to work in the music industry, booking shows in New York, and that's just when, digital marketing started to boom. So we started, posting events on your Facebooks, your MySpace at the time, which is, showing my age a bit, but there you go. And from there, I actually studied abroad in London and ended up really liking it and wanted to come back. So I decided to do my master's in digital marketing, and I went through the University of Middlesex to do that. And I landed my first role in e-com working at Elemis, which is a beauty company, British-based beauty company, actually. It just so happened one of my lecturers was contracting there and they needed an intern, and long story short, here I am now. I was previously at Rolly after leaving Elemis, again, trying to pursue my love of music through other forums, which fulfilled that. But when I decided to look for my next role, it just so happened that I met the founder, Michelle Scott Lynch, on that Amazing Woman in E-commerce panel. We kind of just hit it off, and she was recently just looking to recruit a senior digital member of the team. It's quite a small brand, it's a small company, they're growing and transforming. And so, yeah, I interviewed and it worked out. And so here we are today through that connection.
It's my favorite story. I'm so happy, and I'm so happy you're able to share it with us. Laura, can you talk about kind of your path to e-commerce and your current role?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started my career as a technologist. I studied software engineering at university when back in the day, and I'm trying not to give away my age, but back then I think I walked into a class of about 200 and there was 2 women. There was me and 1 other woman, so it was pretty niche and pretty unusual, I think, back in those days. When it felt totally natural to me to do that, but when you look back now, you think, oh, to be, you know, in such a minority back then. So I started there in Scotland, where I grew up, and always wanted to work for Marks and Spencer's, another iconic British retail brand. And so I ended up doing a placement year as part of my studies at Marks and Spencer's. So I left Scotland for the very first time and moved to London. And then, you know, did my year, finished my studies, and then went straight back as a graduate. So I spent 5 years at Marks and Spencer's in their technology team, doing various different roles. Actually, it was fantastic. I think as a grad, you got to do so many weird and wonderful things, and get exposed to so many different experiences. And after 5 years, I got contacted by a small boutique consultancy who specialised in e-commerce, and they approached me and said, "Look, you know, we've heard you're pretty good. Do you want to come and join us? We're growing." And so I thought, yeah, sounds great. Like, what's not to love? So I spent 5 years there, working my way up to head of department, actually, by the time I left, and worked for loads of amazing retail brands. I've spent most of my career actually in retail, so working for Tesco.com. I did a stint we took Harrods online for the very first time. Worked for Dixon's, Carrefour and Warehouse, which is sort of, I don't know what you'd have in the US, but, you know, think TVs, small electricals, you know, laundry machines, all of that sort of stuff. And then B&Q, which is the British equivalent of Home Depot. So spent 2 years on a big program there. And then moved into a digital marketing agency from that point. So I thought, I wonder if I can do this outside of retail. So I threw myself into the world of digital marketing, automotive, where else did I end up? Bupa, healthcare. Like, I did everything except retail, just to really sort of, I think, broaden my horizons and open up my experience, and also really sort of reaffirm, what do I know? Like, do I know retail, or is there more to what I know than just that? And then after a while, a client approached us to do a piece of work in retail, and I suddenly just got lost in that connection again and thought, no, you know, my heart is really in retail. I want to move back, and so ended up at Waitrose and Partners. So I've been there now for 5 years. I started off as a head of digital development, so thinking about replatforming, rebuilding all of our website and user experience on the website. And then just 6 months ago, got appointed into Director of Online. So now I look after everything from what's our 5-year strategy to we've got broken down vans, and how do we make sure that we get replacement vans, and everything sort of in between, really. So everything that goes into making an online business successful is what I'm sort of looking after, which is fantastic. I love it. I love my job. I'm really privileged to have a job that pushes me and stretches me and challenges me every day.
That's amazing. Raji, can you tell us about your kind of path to e-commerce and your current role?
Sure. So similar to Laura, I actually also started in retail. So I spent the first 13 years of my career at Macy's, America's department store, in their merchandising program. So I was a buyer of men's footwear, ladies' contemporary fashion. And then I became the vice president of their concession businesses, really managing anything outside of the traditional revenue streams, and that was inclusive of both stores and online. So managing a complete omni-channel business. And then I recently moved over to Klarna about 8 months ago, where actually Macy's is one of our largest merchants, where we just went live in October. We launched Bloomingdale's and Bluemercury last month, and we'll be launching in stores next month. So it's nice to keep my past and my future together.
That's so cool. I hadn't realized that you'd made that jump from working sort of on the retail side to now advising retail businesses as a client consultant. That's amazing. All right, let's jump into kind of what we're all here for, which is talking about your approach to the online experience. So we have a bunch of different industries, backgrounds, a lot of knowledge in the room. And so I want to kind of know, what is your approach to building an online experience or creating a great online experience for your stores? Shireen, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. I'd say probably the biggest thing for me, particularly as someone who's kind of jumped from industry to industry. I started in beauty, then I went to music tech, and now I'm kind of going back into the beauty vertical. I think the first thing that's really key for me is really understanding the customer and who they are. Because selling is selling, buying is buying to a certain degree, right? They all kind of have similarities. What makes it different is who is the person that we're selling to? Who is the person that is buying this? Why do they need this? What are we fulfilling for them? What pain point are we fulfilling for them? What solution are we making easier for them, for example? So going into Blue Chem now, not having been in beauty for a little while, the first thing I'm going to do is, have you surveyed your customers? If you surveyed them recently, okay, let me pour into that. Let me dig into your social media channels, see what kind of comments people are leaving under videos or under posts, and just really get to understand how people are, A, experiencing the website and that experience, but B, then how are customers experiencing the actual products? What do they like about the products? What do they not like about the products? That sort of thing. And just creating a holistic picture that really allows you to then create a strategy to, again, bring positive points back into the customer experience where it might be falling down a little bit, or just completely improve it all the way from acquisition right through to retention. Because I think that's another key point that we also forget. A lot of people try to bring customers in, acquisition, how many people are we bringing to the site and how are we converting them? Okay, we've converted them. Now, how do we get them to be a loyal customer? And I'm really enjoying, again, that second half of the funnel, if you want to call it that, of how do we retain people? How do we keep them loyal? How do we keep them happy with us and our product and keep them coming back?
Yeah, loyalty is just such an important thing that I'm hearing about when I speak to people sort of on the brand and retail side, and how important that is now. I mean, it's always been obviously an important part, but it seems like in 2021, it's like the year that everyone is talking about loyalty all the time. From an e-commerce marketing perspective, I get so many pitches now of like, we're doing this report on loyalty, we're doing this event on loyalty, in a way that I have not heard before. And Shireen, you had we keep harkening back to this last panel, but I just remember this thing that you'd said that was super interesting about how, whether you're selling beauty or music tech online, ultimately you're trying to build that relationship and offer that value so that people want to keep coming back. It's like you make that first hurdle of the acquisition, but like you want to keep them trusting you, and like that you become that resource for them. So yeah, sorry, I just wanted to jump in on loyalty, the topic I love. Laura, can you talk about your approach to building an online experience? You don't have to talk about loyalty if you don't want to.
No, I mean, I think I was sort of nodding along as Shireen was talking, because I think, you know, you're spot on. The way that we think about it is always customer first, right? You have to, the first thing that we always do is start with the customer. Who are they? What do they care about? What are they trying to achieve? You know, that is the single biggest thing for us. You know, is really making sure that the customer is present in every decision, every conversation, every meeting, really bringing them in and really understanding their, you know, how they behave, why they behave, you know, every sort of aspect that you can get. And I think for us, what's really, you know, I think the biggest thing that surprised, there's two things that surprised me when I joined Waitrose. One, if you live in the UK, you know that someone like Waitrose and the John Lewis Partnership are known for amazing customer service. What surprised me the most is when I walked into the business, how the customer was not present 5 years ago. I was like, I expected everyone to be talking about the customer. I expected there to be like personas on pen portraits all over the wall and all of that sort of stuff. And it wasn't. So there was just this real sort of, I suppose in a way, this sort of real sort of, back in those days, intrinsic knowledge and know-how of who the customer was. But of course, nowadays, that's changing so quickly, you know, and our customers are changing so quickly, and their lives and their preferences and their diets, and every aspect is changing so quickly. And so for me, you know, a lot of my time is spent making sure that we've got the right infrastructure in place to make sure that the customer can always be present, right? So be that research, data and analytics, technology, you know, whether that's, you know, having closeness events where we can actually meet customers to hear a bit more about them, but really you have to make a concerted effort to make sure that you truly understand your customer. And I think it's really easy to say, right, but it's really hard to do, and it takes a lot of time and energy and investment to be a really customer-centric organization.
Yeah, that's super. Oh, sorry, go on, Laura.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but I mean, I think for me, what I would say is if you do make that investment, it does pay off, right? My experience says if you do that and you do it well and you do it consistently, the results do speak for themselves. So it is well worth going through that process and that journey and that investment. It will, you know, you will reap massive reward from it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then in the case, I mean, you've touched on sort of how Waitrose and John Lewis are known for their customer service, and there is that that feeling that your customers are really like there for you. Like I'm a Waitrose fangirl, and I'll talk about how much I love Waitrose, and it's like a kind of pretty normal topic of conversation in the UK is like which grocery do you love and why?
Yeah, no, it is incredible, and for me, it's an absolute privilege to work for a brand where our customers are so happy to tell us what they do and don't like about it. Like I've never worked in an organization where you have so many customers willing to give up their time and energy to actually tell you what's good, or tell you what's not so good, right? They really do want us to be successful and want us to be better. And I think if they're prepared to give you that time and that feedback, the least we can do is act on it. So it's really important. It's really important for me and anyone in my team that we do genuinely act upon what our customers tell us.
It's amazing. Raji, can you talk about sort of how do you approach with Klarna merchants, advising them on building the best kind of online experience on their stores?
Sure. I mean, I couldn't agree more with Laura. It always starts with the customer. And online is typically where most of our merchants and our retailers adopt buy now, pay later, mostly because it's, you know, relatively new to the US market. And often it's a little bit easier to educate the customers about the benefits and really how it works. In stores, the technical implementation is also very easy, but it requires a little bit more communication and knowledge sharing to the consumers, either through in-store signage or through employee engagement. But when it comes to our omni approach, you know, you mentioned loyalty, and we could not agree more. It's really about attracting a new audience, a more diverse audience, and then really rewarding them for their behavior. So something that we really truly value is our Vibe loyalty program, because we can reward both Klarna customers as well as the individual retailers loyalty program. So they can redeem points for favorite rewards or gift cards like Starbucks, Sephora, and we have about 700,000 users today. So really being able to integrate both point of views.
And can we talk about sort of when we were talking about online store approach, how did that change during COVID? How did you have to adapt? We'll go back around the other way. So Raji, I guess we're talking again from like sort of advising merchants, especially with buy now, pay later and sort of how they're using Klarna. What kind of shifts did you have to make during COVID?
Well, at the onset of COVID, you know, we had more merchants and retailers ever that either they were an omni-channel merchant or they were just really shifting all of their business to digital. So really, we had more merchants than ever that we launched in the shortest amount of time period, because they really wanted to ensure that they could shift that business to the digital channel. So in fact, I think we had about 3 or 4 merchants go live the day before Thanksgiving. We had one merchant go live on Thanksgiving Day itself, because, you know, in this compressed Q4 timeframe, they really needed to capitalize on all the sales possible. So we scrambled to get everyone live pre-code freeze as much as we could. And then now in Q1, we're launching anyone who might have missed that deadline. But I think, you know, now people are realizing buy now, pay later is a necessity, and the customers are telling them that.
Laura, can you talk about the shifts that you had to make with COVID at Waitrose, particularly, I mean, in the grocery space? I think perhaps there's some challenges or some successes that you could share with our audience.
Yeah, I laugh. It wasn't fun. It was not fun back then. Yeah, I mean, I think, it was just absolutely unprecedented for us. So just before lockdown in the UK, I think traffic increased by about 10 times to our website. So our website, we were in the middle of we were about a month away from finalizing a big replatform when COVID hit. So we were sort of in this precarious position. But that being said, I don't think any website had been tested for the amount of traffic that we were experiencing in those days. And for us, it was take every day as it comes, actually, if I'm being completely honest, because it was so unpredictable. We went from people panicking trying to get a delivery slot. We then went, once they had a delivery slot, they were then into panic buying. So we were then going, okay, how do we start to, limit the amount of people who can buy 50 million toilet rolls? I mean, it was just madness. So for us, we basically had to quadruple our business overnight, which is what we've done, right? So we went from doing 60,000 deliveries a week to nearly 250,000 deliveries now. And really just, we were already planning for growth, just not at that amount of growth and not at that point in time. So we were planning for growth in the summer of last year, because we had a 20-year relationship with Ocado that was coming to an end. So we were already sort of planning growth, but not to the extent that this hit. So and the other complication we had to deal with, not complication, but the other challenge we had was, the government had put in place a sort of shielding program for the most vulnerable in society. So, again, overnight, we pretty much had to figure out how do we get data from the government? How do we cleanse it? How do we match it to our own internal data to make sure that we can identify a customer? And then how do we give them priority access to make sure that the most vulnerable in society get a slot? So, I mean, it was pretty impressive when you think about it. Within 10 days of being asked by the government to prioritize this group of customers, the team had designed, built, and launched a solution. So it was pretty crazy. But it was, I think the key lessons for me was around, we talk a lot about agility and how you need to be agile. Like in a crisis moment, when push came to shove, the teams were massively agile. They were at their best in being able to problem solve, because it was super clear what we had to do. There was no choices on the table. We just had to go for it and do our best. Yeah, so it's been one heck of a year. It's been incredibly humbling, I think I said in my profile, to be able to say, how do you go from, a pretty, small business delivering groceries to someone who's a bit time poor because they're a working mum, to actually you're now a critical service, giving delivery to, the over 70s who've never shopped online before, who are terrified beyond belief about their health. And you're kind of going, there's only so many people that you can help here. So how do you just show up and do the best that you can possibly do, was the key for us. But it was incredibly tough. And we're still, even to this day, we continue to grow. We continue to protect those customers. They get, more than a third of our deliveries every week now to that group of people. So it's been, I think for us, it's been really humbling, really challenging, but I think it's given us a real boost in terms of our belief in what we can achieve. If we, when push comes to shove and you have to, you really have to go for it, it's amazing what people can achieve.
Yeah, wow. I was really excited to hear your answer to that question, because I think as someone as a online grocery consumer, experiencing that time, I did, because I have some insight into the e-commerce world, all I could think about is like, what are their e-commerce teams doing right now? Like, it just must be so hectic during a time that was already so hectic. And at that time also, I know I've talked about this so much, but because people have this these like emotional connections to some of these online brands and just like some of these like groceries, it was like a real comfort. You were turning to like Waitrose for like, it wasn't even just I want to buy groceries. It's like I want to make sure that they're still working, because that is some kind of sense of normalcy for me. And so it was, for me, it was like symbolic to be able to get my groceries online when I was able to get them. It was such a sense of relief, not just because I was getting food, but because I was like, things are okay.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you know, I think back to those days, and there was some amazing days, right? You would get a letter from a customer, you know, and some of the letters, I think, you know, a customer said, "You have literally saved my life." But you know, for every customer that you've helped, there's 5 customers that you didn't help, who are also writing to you, you know, saying you have ruined my life. You know, it's really, really, it's really hard. And I think for us, you know, I remember sitting and, you know, in that time, it was my job to say, right, what's the strategy here? What do we do? And you know, I sat there thinking, right, we've got 100,000 slots. There's 60 million-ish adults in the country. We know about a third of them. But, you know, if we just prioritize a third of the nation, you're not really helping anyone, are you? Because then you've got a third of the UK fighting for 100,000 slots. Like, that's not particularly helpful for anybody. It might feel like you're doing the right thing, but, you know, so it was a really difficult choice to say, well, how do you do this? How do you help, truly help as many people as you possibly can? And there was no guidebook, right? There was no, here's what we did before, right? So you have to go on your judgment. You have to go on what do you think is right. You have to empathize with your customers. You know, my husband was shielding, so I'm going, I get it, right? I understand it. So, but I think it's just really stepping back and saying, actually, what's the best decision in a terrible situation? And then it's how do you handle the consequences of that, good and bad, in the most honest and sympathetic way that you can, really.
Yeah. Shireen, can you talk a little bit about how you approach kind of the changing online experience during COVID?
Yeah, so I was at Roli during the time, which again is a music technology company. I mean, our issues weren't as grave as, you know, in the supermarket industry whatsoever. But it also had a similar uptick because people were now stuck at home. They had more time to, you know, pick up hobbies or, you know, rediscover old hobbies they had before. So we had a lot of people, you know, buying our hardware and our software. But the issue we had is our manufacturing lines went down. We have parts that come from all over the world that we can get to our manufacturer to make. So pretty much we had no hardware to sell for 3/4 of the year. Which doesn't bode well when you have quite aggressive targets for the year and you only have software to sell. So we had to just pivot. Like most people, we had to pivot really quickly. And I think we decided not so much to focus on, again, those number targets. I mean, they're important, but at the same time, we, again, focused again on loyalty and keeping customers happy. And for us, that meant providing them with education, more education on how to use our products, with other music software and hardware products that are really popular in that ecosystem, like your Ableton Lives and that sort of thing. And just keeping people engaged and keeping Roli at the top of mind was really key for us from March onwards of last year.
Wow. All right, this has been such an amazing session, and I'm really happy we did this. I am gonna come to our last question, which is sort of about giving back. More than ever, customers want to buy from companies that are aligning to their values. So I'm gonna go around the room and kind of ask, like, what values or causes are important to your companies, and how are you showing to your customers that you're supporting those causes or representing those values? Raji, let's start with you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So as you mentioned, we had a big week last week where we announced our latest round of funding for $1 billion, which put our valuation at 31 billion. And I'm really proud to work for a company that decided we're going to pledge 1% of that round of funding towards sustainability challenges around the world. So this initiative will formally kick off next month for World Earth Day. But our goal is like really simple, just to leave the planet in a better place where we found it. And, you know, the world is definitely in a critical inflection point at the moment. And we're fortunate enough to work at a company that is raising an obscene amount of money to build our business. And really, it's our duty to be mindful of the role that we play in society. And we have a responsibility to solve global sustainability and give back. And I really hope that other companies are able to do the same.
Laura, how about you?
Yeah, no, I think I would agree with everything Raji said. I think for Waitrose and Partners at the moment, for us, you know, again, the sustainability thing is really key. But I think also one of our big pushes at the moment is about community and how we play a bigger part in the communities that we serve. It's always been part of the Waitrose brand, but even more so now. So, you know, this Christmas, we, instead of doing a sort of big traditional Christmas advert, we ran a charity advert called Give a Little Love, which was all about how do you give back to, you know, to families that can't afford, you know, the food that we all just take for granted that you can walk into the supermarket. So we're really focusing on how do we make sure that everyone in the UK has got access to food. So we work in collaboration with FareShare as one of our big charity partners, which is about how do you know, distribute and surplus food to disadvantaged families. So that's a big push for us, and we've just actually launched a new initiative called Farm to Family, which is about taking excess products from farms that are, you know, perfectly good to eat, but wouldn't necessarily make it through the into the, you know, a Waitrose and Partners because of sort of size, shape, that sort of thing, and actually send that directly to FareShare so that they can then redistribute that onwards to families. So the community piece for us is massive at the moment. And as Raji said, I mean, I think for me, you know, one of the most important things of working at the partnership is about, you know, we are a co-owned business, right? So we're all partners. We own, you know, part of the business. And it's really important to all of us to do better and to do good in society and to help make the planet a more sustainable force for the future. So yeah, it's fantastic to be able to be part of something so big that's making such a difference to the most vulnerable in society, really.
That's really cool. FareShare is an organization that's really close to Yotpo UK team's hearts, and it's amazing to hear that you guys are working with them. Shireen, how about you?
Yeah, so it's actually one of the reasons why I was excited to join Blueclem, because they're an eco-conscious brand, right? All of their products are plant-based. They try to make sure all of their packaging is recyclable, and they have like a 5-year plan towards becoming even more sustainable, which is really great. But they have two really awesome charitable partners that they work with. One is Trees for the Future, which, you know, plant one tree basically for every bottle that they sell, which is really great. And then they've also partnered with Malika, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a nonprofit organization based out of the Democratic Republic of Congo, which basically helps give women and young girls access to education, water, and healthcare. So two really great causes.
Wow. All right, sadly, ladies, our panel has come to an end. It was so amazing to hear from you. I'm really, really happy we did this. As I said, Raji, Shireen, and Laura, thank you so much. Everyone in the audience, stay tuned. You'll hear from some more amazing women in e-commerce. And thanks, ladies. Have a great day.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Amazing Women in E-commerce Online March edition. My name's Ariel Bubb. I'm the Marketing Events Manager at Yotpo, and we're super excited to sit down and hear from an inspiring group of women, our 2021 honorees. We have Carolyn Zamara, co-founder at Recoup, Yoonji Nam, head of growth at Magic Spoon, and Haley Branham, senior account manager at Ad Quadrant. Before we get started, I wanted to kick it off with a few housekeeping notes. If you want to share any content from this event on social, and we encourage you to do so, please make sure to tag us at Women in Ecom and feel free to tag us at Yotpo directly. Before we get into the juicy stuff, I wanted to kick off the event with some quick intros about your company, title, and what you oversee. Carolyn, let's start with you.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. I'm Carolyn. I'm one of the founders of Recoup, a supplement company that creates vitamins specifically for people who take stimulants. I'm in charge of generating revenue and growth along with the marketing, creative, and strategy behind it.
Awesome. Haley, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Haley Branham. I'm a senior account manager at Ad Quadrant, a leading digital marketing agency specializing in direct-to-consumer brands. At AdQ, I service our largest client relationships, and I act as a liaison between internal and external stakeholders with an emphasis on relationship management and client satisfaction.
Awesome. Last but not least, Yoonji.
Hi, my name is Yoonji. I'm the head of growth at Magic Spoon, which sells healthy and delicious cereal. And as the head of growth, I oversee our customer acquisition, retention, as well as our conversion rate optimization efforts on our website.
Awesome. Speaking of that, Yoonji, can you share a bit about your personal journey and what led you to your current role in company?
Yeah, of course. So I actually started my career in management consulting at the Boston Consulting Group, and transitioned into the startup space and the D2C space by starting my role in a way as the consumer insights and growth person, and then started at Hawthorne as a director of growth and first employee. I was there for about 2.5 years, and then started at Magic Spoon selling delicious cereal about a year ago.
Awesome. Carolyn?
Yeah, I started my career at American Apparel, and I've always loved e-commerce. I actually started Recoup as a side hustle about 2 years after launching Gravity Blankets, which I think is a more popular brand right now. But yeah, launched Gravity Blankets, which is a weighted blanket for sleep, stress, and anxiety, about I think 4 years now, and just sold. This product was really inspired by our own personal experience with stimulants and their side effects. So we wanted to create a convenient and healthy way to reduce side effects and maintain your health.
Awesome. And Haley?
My professional journey started about 7 years ago at a SaaS company in Austin called Spreadfast. I was actually contracted to be a community moderator for the Facebook Business Help community, where I taught myself how to use Facebook marketing tools by helping advertisers troubleshoot their own issues. Eventually, we monetized that skill set and started selling paid media services in-house to our own strategy clients. And not long after that, I was scooped up by Facebook, where I was a partner manager for agency clients. I actually fell in love working with agencies so much that I switched over to the agency side about 2 years ago, and that's where I landed at Ad Quadrant, and the rest is history.
Haley, based on your experience, what are the biggest challenges brands face? And I would love to know that from the agency perspective.
I think one of the biggest issues that we face is the ability to still deliver personalized, integrated ad experiences with increasing privacy hurdles. It's so important to diversify your media mix so that you have increased touch points and a better chance of reaching your target audiences in this current media environment. And you have to get creative too. For example, I have a customer who is currently using a software called Pebble Post for programmatic retargeting through postcards. So this software actually uses technology to retarget a person based on where they were browsing using their IP address, and then it sends them a postcard in the mail where you could introduce your brand via a promo or just a hi, nice to meet you, check out our website, through a really personalized custom experience. And it's really fun too. It's a creative way to think outside of the box. I think another piece is obviously to stay up to date with privacy developments and comply. And then on the topic of privacy and shortcomings, I think attribution and measurement is such a difficult challenge. It's always been a difficult challenge, but now more than ever. So I always encourage our brands that I work with to stop treating platform metrics as the holy grail. So basically, know your COGS, know your profit margins, know all of your cost of doing business, and then use those to set true goals for acquisition and ROI. Then use a blended report that factors in your front-end ad spend, your back-end revenue, or your units sold. and make decisions based on that number, not just your platform metrics. We call this blended reporting at AdQuadrant, and it's really the only way to use data to drive actual business impact.
Awesome. And Carolyn, what's your perspective from the brand side?
I mean, I think Haley touched on all the major points. I mean, just echoing the piece about attribution here, I think with all the different data privacy issues and just a difference in like tracking and availability in that is really going to make it harder for brands and advertisers to be able to really understand how platforms are impacting them. Also with this pandemic, you know, it feels like we're never getting out of it. And last year's holiday season was just extremely expensive, which made it really hard for small businesses. And I think that, you know, this year, if we're not out of it, we're just going to have to prepare for another really expensive holiday season.
Right. Yunji, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just echoing Carolyn, I think there's also, even within this long pandemic, I think there were different mental and emotional phases that our customers have been going through. So in the beginning, it was very much, I mean, Magic Spoon got a little lucky in that our core value propositions actually very much aligned with what our customers were looking for, which is everyone's really stressed. They're looking for that nostalgic feeling from the food, but also they want something shelf stable and something where they don't have to go into a store. So, but I think as we continue to stay in this pandemic, what they're looking for kind of changes a little bit. And so making sure that our communications and how we're talking to our customers don't come off as, you know, I don't want to say like tone deaf or not relevant, but still addressing like what they're looking for. And so kind of really staying nimble and adapting to what they're looking for has been an interesting challenge for us.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think ROI is a huge factor when it comes to growth. And I'm curious to know, what are the most efficient or high ROI channels you're leveraging today? Do you want to kick that off?
Yeah, so I would say, and I know this is not technically like a channel, but don't sleep on your existing customers. So for us, whenever we launch new flavors or new product lines, they're the ones that are most excited. And then also they are the more likely to, you know, go around telling their friends and family about how much they love this product. So I would say acquisition channels and the paid channels are very important too, but don't sleep on your existing fans.
And Haley, again, from the agency side, and then also if you want to touch a little bit on the brand side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say in the brand to echo Yunji, but generally speaking, we see the highest returns on email marketing. So whenever we take on a client at AdQuadrant, one of the very first things that we ask is how healthy is your email marketing strategy? I actually read an article the other day that for every $1 that you invest into email marketing, you get $44 back, which is an insane ROI. And we see this. This is a space where you get to serve custom content. You get to tailor uniquely to your consumer base using filters, segmentation, and you get to make the experience feel extremely personal. You can educate, entertain, provide support, and more. So it's really the lowest hanging fruit in any omni-channel marketing mix, and the place where, in my opinion, you get to have the most fun with your target audience.
Yep. Carolyn?
Yeah, I know that everyone knows that Facebook and Instagram are the top demand generating platforms, but I think what is also interesting to both of your points is that we actually use our customer reviews as like our for our ad content, which is actually our best performing content. Better than any of the brands that I've worked with in the past, mainly because I think with supplements and this product in particular, it takes a bit more of like an organic tone in order to be able to justify, you know, trying out a product, especially in the supplement space. And also there's only so many ways you can say like help reduce negative side effects. So thankfully, like our loyal like consumer base is really great at being able to describe our product and its effects. And you know, using that as like a way for social proof and reviews and our ad content has been really impactful.
Yeah. And naturally, we start figuring out and measuring the main drivers of growth for our companies and clients. Yunji, you said something in your profile that I think resonates here, which stated, I think the realization that brands should care just as much, if not more, about customer retention versus acquisition will continue. Strong brands are built upon real and genuine fans. I thought that was amazing. And I know Magic Spoon uses Yotpo reviews, Yotpo solutions for reviews. So I'm curious to know how they're contributing to your company's growth.
Yeah, I mean, we utilize those reviews in so many different ways. So the first, as Carolyn mentioned, I think customers really want to hear from other real people who have used the product. And so we want to make sure that that's highlighted on our website and across our ads. And I think it's both the content of those reviews, but at our stage, it's also the sheer volume. So I think saying we have more than 18,000 positive reviews is in and of itself a very strong statement. So we very much utilize that in our marketing. And also we definitely read through our reviews and find patterns to understand and make business decisions as well. So for instance, whenever we launch limited edition flavors, we look at, oh, how did the ratings for that specific flavor differ from other flavors? And does that mean that it's actually well received enough for us to consider launching it as a permanent flavor, for example? And we sometimes even discover like a new customer segment that we didn't even realize. So sometimes we'll get really long reviews from really, really happy customers who say, you know, my child has type 1 diabetes and I thought that she would just never be able to eat cereal, but thanks to Magic Spoon, like she can have a piece of childhood back. And, you know, like we're all crying, we're all just like, oh my God, this is the best review ever. And so, it's good for company morale, of course, but also it helps us understand like who are our customers and what resonates with them in ways that we may have never even realized.
Yeah, I think that's super powerful. And I think we're learning a lot during the pandemic as well with that added pressure of emotional, right? All the emotion and that pressure. Carolyn, what are the main drivers that contribute to your growth at Recoup and your customers?
Yeah, I mean, it really is Facebook and Instagram. And, you know, with stimulants, there is a bit of a stigma that we're always constantly trying to end. And so when we're thinking about growth from an organic perspective, it's really about education pieces and things that are relatable. You know, some of our top content on organic social is really about like rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or understanding how women are 50 to 70% more undiagnosed than men, you know, and just really thinking about like the details of that. And it actually helps with our consumers, help keeps our consumers like within our community and letting them know that they're not the only ones experiencing it. Yeah, that's really been our main driver. And also like, you know, using the customer feedback. And one of the other pieces of content that have worked really well is like encouraging our community to add in their own tidbits. So it's like, what is something you wish people knew about ADHD, or what is something you wish people knew about narcolepsy? And really using that to help drive the conversation within our community.
Wow, that's great. Well, you guys are doing some really awesome things, and I admire that. Now hopping over to social media, can you tell us about your opinion on the latest crave of brands experimenting with marketing on TikTok? You have YouTube, Twitch, is Instagram over? Haley, I'm curious to know your opinion on that.
Instagram is not over. I don't think it will be ever, or at least for a very long time.
Yeah.
One of the current trends that we're seeing as marketers is that Instagram is actually becoming this melting pot for all of the all-time best content from every platform, specifically TikTok. So, for example, if you're scrolling through your own feed and you scroll maybe 5 or 6 times, you're bound to see at least one TikTok cross posted into your feed. And so it's becoming this really organic, authentic experience. And as marketers, we're sort of trying to take advantage of that and tap into that by creating our own TikToks and then cross placing them as ads into the Instagram feed, so they look and feel like a TikTok and they feel like that organic experience, because you want to make it authentic. You want to make sure that your content is resonating with your audience and is engaging. And so I think that we're seeing this like amalgamation of the channels coming together rather than any one being killed off. And see, we thought this about Snapchat too a long time ago, and then they made their huge comeback. So I think that they're here to stay.
Awesome. Yunji?
I'm very hesitant to say like, oh, this whole channel is over, or like it's not relevant anymore, because it's very interesting how when new social media channels pop up, people find different ways and different ways to engage with it, and they're in a very different emotional space. And so I would say, like, no, Instagram is not over. Like, no, Clubhouse isn't magically any good, like, take over as a main acquisition channel for all the brands. It's more like, what is your unique value proposition as a brand, and who are your customers, and when and where are they spending their time and attention on what channel, and like look for what is a best fit for you, as opposed to, you know, like, oh, people spend a lot of time on Reddit, but like the way people spend time on Reddit and the way they engage with the content there is extremely different from how they spend time on Instagram, for example. And like, you should think about that as opposed to like, okay, well, TikTok's really hot, so I'm just gonna go and advertise there.
Yeah.
100%.
And Carolyn, what about your opinion?
I mean, I think it's great to explore if there's like a natural or creative fit, but I don't think you need to force it, right? Like having to be on a platform just to be on a platform, I don't think is a great use of time. You know, we've explored this with Snapchat, for example, right? Like I've had, you know, I've done tests on Snapchat for products that were really expensive, and that just doesn't fit that consumer. And then there's also pieces about brand, right? Are you trying to drive revenue, or are you trying to drive brand awareness? I think like from a Clubhouse perspective, which I do love Clubhouse, I think that there's only some brands that are really going to be successful from on there, but it's not necessarily going to be like a direct revenue driver, mainly just like a great like brand awareness place. You know, with us from a mental health perspective, you know, coming on as like one of the founders of Recoup and talking about mental health is going to be great from a community building aspect. But, you know, any of those engagements aren't necessarily like done with the intention of being able to grow from a revenue perspective.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway here is the right channel is based on your audience and brand. It's not like a one size fits all, right? So moving into the next question, how has customer acquisition changed over the past years? Has there been any surprises for you? Yoonji, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think like all of the D2C brands have been going through like a stage of like, okay, like growth at all cost is like not good for anyone. Like we should really be thinking about how does customer acquisition play into customer retention and their lifetime revenue and their lifetime value. So I would say it seems to me, at least, and maybe this is just a personal view, like that people are not like, okay, what's the quickest and largest amount that we can grow? It's more like, okay, let's like think about how the channels interplay with one another. And as Haley mentioned earlier too, like let's make sure that our tracking is something believable and something that we actually believe in as a company and something we can back out to. And so I would say more emphasis on like responsibly growing and really thinking about your unit economics and the business fundamentals.
Yeah. What about you, Carolyn?
Yeah, I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think it's really different because of how people's purchasing behaviors changed. You know, when we think about like looking at historical like metrics, like month over month, right? It's really hard to take last year's data, knowing that there were so many variables, and like thinking about seasonality. It's so different, right? Like over the pandemic, we saw a lot of trends from doing your own hair at home because people were worried that like they couldn't go into a salon to, you know, making TikTok coffees. So because of that shift and not being able to shop in store, we also experienced a large and expensive Black Friday season because a lot more brands were advertising in the spaces that businesses like ours are typically advertising on. I think that was a bit of a surprise because, you know, while we somewhat expected it, we didn't really realize how impactful it was going to be from like a CPM perspective. And from what I was seeing, and I'm not sure, Eugene, if you're seeing something similar, but from a CPM perspective, it seemed to be a lot more expensive unless you were spending upwards of like 150 grand. So yeah.
Awesome. And Haley?
I mean, to echo Carolyn, the customer journey has diversified and is more complex than ever, and you have to get so creative about how you're marketing to potential buyers. I think also the market is now more than ever more competitive and saturated. So I think that brands really need to lean into value ads. No longer can you just serve up a really great, really relevant product into a person's feed and expect them to buy from you. You have to earn their trust and their confidence. So one of the best ways that we recommend our clients do this is to reduce the barriers to purchase by focusing on these value ads. Free samples, free product with purchase for cross-sell upsells, free money-back guarantees, no hassle returns, etc., just so that you can build that trust and build that confidence and layer that value add on to make your already really great product more appealing to your consumer base. And I think as for surprises, one thing that's really interesting to me on the topic of like influencer marketing, no, you can't just buy an influencer anymore and expect a ton of sales. We actually had a customer spend almost their entire marketing budget on a very famous celebrity to help launch their brand, and much to their surprise and frustration, they didn't see the returns that they wanted, because customers these days care about authenticity. You have to win their trust, their confidence, their interest, their recommendation. And in order to do that, you have to lean into that authentic experience. You have to serve them ads that are genuine and unscripted, because customers can see right through anything else these days. It's the age of user-generated content, and they don't respond to scripted stuff anymore. So I would say lean into the success stories of your customers. If you're working with influencers, send them a product, allow them to try it for a while so that they do actually love it and want to recommend it, and lean into that word of mouth from real customers, real lovers of your product.
Absolutely. And me as a shopper too, I feel like I can resonate with that a lot. I'm curious to know, are you dealing with the latest developments with Facebook, Apple, SMS short codes, or any other regulatory issues, such as privacy? Yoonji?
Yes, absolutely yes. We are, doing all the reading that we can. We are doing all the back end, website setup, front end website setup, everything we can to make sure that we're staying compliant, we're staying thoughtful. As much as as a marketer, we wish all the data ever were available, but as a consumer, we I'm very protective of my personal data too. So I think it's like a really healthy and good thing on a macro level. But I think the other thing to keep in mind is this is always going to happen. Something's always going to change, and something's gonna, change the algorithm. CPMs are gonna go up. Something's going to happen. So it's good to remind yourself, okay, this is just another change in a sea of changes that are inevitably coming all the time in waves.
100%.
Haley, what about you?
Yes, iOS 14 update from Apple has us running through hoops, and I think it's a really good opportunity to remind brands, at least on the Facebook side, you have to take a lot of proactive actions to make sure your ads don't get completely paused overnight while you're sleeping. So that looks like verifying your business domain, updating your attribution settings, making sure you prioritize your pixel events in Events Manager, and just really staying on top of all of these updates so that you're always acting on whatever actions you need to take to comply with them, because it could really, really impact your business. I think it stresses the importance of diversification as well in your media mix, not to put all of your eggs in one basket, because these platforms are always evolving and you don't want to cripple yourself by playing only in one lane.
Okay. Carolyn, are you dealing with any of these issues?
Yes, to everything. Yeah, it's been a bit of a journey. I think with the iOS 14 updates and trying to get Conversions API integrated, thankfully Shopify has a pretty seamless integration. But we're a subscription-based product. We use third-party apps, which make it a little bit difficult from a domain verification standpoint. And a lot of these third-party apps haven't figured out yet. So I guess anybody who's tuning in, this is a reminder to go get that checked and make sure that you guys are compliant. I think the other piece too that a lot of companies forget about is CCPA, which is also another real privacy thing that we need to figure out. I've seen a lot of companies that have forgotten that there's also some special requirements if you're selling to people in California. And I've seen it I've seen other founders in my network having issues too from a tracking perspective, trying to get compliant. So I wish there was a bit more of a cohesive way to explain it to everybody. I don't think Facebook has done a really great job at it. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been having the same issues I am, where a lot of the conversion data still isn't pulling through. You still have to you still have to do a lot of things to try to get like an overall blended return on ad spend or even your total amount. So hopefully in the next like few weeks they'll get it sorted out. But yeah, it's very, very important to get that checked and be on top of it.
Awesome. Well, this has been a truly insightful. Again, I'm honored to be a part of these discussions and blessed to have a platform to share this type of content. And we're coming up on our last question, I'm so sad to say. And this one I think is super important for the audience is what advice would you give to someone just starting out in e-commerce, trying to drive business growth? Yoonji, let's start with you.
Yeah, from personal experience, I remember when I was just getting my feet wet in Facebook ads, literally having like one beautiful image and then changing the background from like white to black and seeing like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen to the data? And TLDR, nothing happened because it's the same thing. So I would say like, don't, because I feel like as paid marketers, you can optimize endlessly. So it's really important to remember, okay, let's make sure that we're looking for the global maximum as opposed to the local maximum. If you're, testing creatives on Facebook, make sure that the 3 different concepts are wildly different so that they're all step function different in terms of potentially increasing conversion rate or click-through rate, instead of getting too stuck in one concept and iterating endlessly there and then missing the bigger picture.
Awesome. What about you, Carolyn?
I mean, I think it's a bit more high level, but I've always realized that a lot of people will be like, I want to be like so and so. I want to like grow as big as blank. Like, what did they do? And my advice is always that like never compare your journey to another person's or another brand's. There's a lot of variables that go into place for success and a million paths to it. So trying to like do a playbook or a one-to-one comparison isn't necessarily going to be helpful. Really listen to what you're offering and like figure out exactly what the best path forward is.
I like that a lot. Haley?
Well, when I think about growth and development, I think of soft skills and I think of hard skills. So I'll give 2-pronged advice here. In the hard skills category, my recommendation would be to establish a breadth of knowledge across a wide industry or a wide range of industry skills and specialize in 1 or 2 of them. This is actually called being a T-shaped marketer, and it will allow you to add value to your teams in a really broad and impactful way. And then from a soft skills perspective, I recommend that you lean into 2 skills that I find to be really valuable in this industry: an intellectual curiosity and an eagerness to learn. The only constant in our industry is that everything always changes. And I think to be an excellent marketer, you have to stay in the know. Don't always accept an answer for face value. Go and chase the why, and that's going to be how you're going to make it.
And those are some of the things I'm learning right now today, to be honest. And I think we're actively learning that. Thank you so much, Carolyn, Yoonji, and Haley. And to everyone who tuned in today, be sure to tag us at Women in Ecom on social if you want to share any moments from today's session. Over to you, Ruthie.
Thank you, Ariel. What an awesome way to end this event. And thank you really to all of our amazing speakers and attendees for joining us today. It's been a wonderful event, and a special thank you to Yotpo and our event partners, Recharge, Capgemini, Klarna, and AdQuadrant for making this event possible. We will, of course, be sending you a full recording of today's event via email, so stay tuned for that, especially if you needed to hop out at any point. We'll also be sending you an email asking you to rate today's event and share your feedback. We would greatly appreciate it if you could just take a few minutes to fill that out. It will help us to continue bringing you the best possible speakers and covering the most relevant topics. And if you do want to share any content on social from this event, please remember to tag @Women in Ecom and @Yotpo so we can reshare. Thank you again, and stay tuned for our next event. We hope to see you there.